Okay, Jeff Howard here, and I want to show some of the steps that I've done in building a quad, a racing type quad. This is a really nice frame. This is one of the aftermarket or non-name brand QAV210s. They work very, very well. They're very nimble and are great little quads. Very fast too. They can be tuned to do all kinds of really cool stuff. Anyway, I like these frames because it is a 3 mil base plate, and I have yet to break one of these arms. I think somebody else has that I've been flying around, but it was a massive hit, an unreal hit. I have seen some of these base plates break, so if it happens, you got to buy a whole new base plate. Sometimes the ZMR 210 frames are really cool because you can actually just replace one arm for about $5 instead of a $20 base plate. But you can get this little frame set up and all the uprights and the top plate and everything for, golly, 25 to 30 bucks. You can't beat that. So there's the base plate. I am running 2204 motors here. They're really nice. There's more than a few that are out there. I run 4-cell. This is a DYS speed controller. This is the 20 amp, the SN20s. What I have done here, what I normally do is I use a servo tester and I plug it into the control wire. Then I plug up the power and I solder the leads on. And then I test the motor direction. You want to make sure that when the motor turns in the direction you need, which this one here will turn all to the inside quad, that the nut tightens up. So the force of the prop tightens the nut up. That is one thing that's very important that some people don't understand. But that's all that matters on that, unless you have the ones with the nuts on them, lock nuts, and you don't even have to worry about this direction. So again, I solder them on, I test the motor direction, and if it's incorrect, then I switch 2 wires. Voila, I've got the direction. So here's how I do a pre-setup. I lay out my motors, I lay out where my ESCs are going to sit, I cut my wires, I solder them all on, do all the testing, get all my motors set, and then I number them. Put the numbers on here, and then you can remember this is built for clean flight, not open pilot. So that's one thing you can see here to make sure that your wire. So once I get these numbered, I use a permanent marker, and I number the ends of the wires here. I put a number on each of these ends. So no matter where I route my wires, it won't matter as long as I plug it up correctly to the NAS board, which is what I'm running here, or the CC3D, or whatever the heck you wish to use. Those numbers are on the wires, and you're set to go. Now, what I've done here is my power distribution board. I have already wired in and labeled. If you can barely see on there, there's 12 volt for my camera system. And here is the 5 volt for running my NAS and my controller and everything. So I get that all pre-soldered on here. I like these little boards. This is a Fox ear. And I'll pre-put solder on all of these leads down here before I put this into the quad, so I'm ready to rock and roll and start assembly. If you want to run LEDs, run your wire off of there and label it LED. This one's pretty cool. It has a switch there to run that. So running all these little wires and getting them preset is the key to building and getting everything set. This is my NAS. I'm running a satellite, the Spectrum. So I have the plug right here. Positive is to that direction. Where that hump is right there is positive. So you got positive, negative, and signal on there. So I'll look at that real close up. I run these other 3 plugs out here on this end here, and the reason is one of them is buzzer, one of them is battery voltage, and then there's transmitter, ground, and I run those, and I can just plug into them when I wish if I want to put the buzzer in and unplug it. I like everything a little modular because I take out my camera, I rig my camera stuff to the top plate so I can remove it, work on my quad, and then re-put it back on. So it's really cool. It makes it simple. Don't forget that. Make it a little modular. I've got all the plugs here. I don't use them all. I use 4 and then 1 for a power lead that goes onto there. And that's what this 5 volt here will be plugged into. There's 1 extra, whatever, I just leave it on the block, don't cut it off. You can if you want. Anyway, So there's a good basic little setup. You can see the arrow to go the direction I want. I've got everything set up here ready to start assembly of the quad. I want to mount my motors, put my heat shrink around the ESCs here, and once I get that done and the motors are all positioned in and I use lock thread to lock on all the motors, then I'll come back in and I'll mount all my power distribution board on the bottom and my nays. As you can see, I've already got my little standoff on my nays, so that will set on the top with spacers with screws coming up through the bottom of the quad, and we'll mount this in here in the correct placement. Anyway, so I'll get those kind of mounted up and go to the next segment, but really excited. These things work out really well usually. But I just want to kind of show the steps. I have built about 7 quads now, and every one of them have had some little tweak here and there, and I'm just trying to eliminate that and help you, the builder. Anyway, be back.